Hi friends, welcome to Raising Lifelong Learners. I'm your host, Colleen Kessler, and this is the podcast where I encourage you to trust yourself and your differently wired kiddos as you help cultivate their curiosity, encourage them to discover the world around them, embrace who they are wired to be, all while helping them discover their passions, interests, and raise them to become the amazing adults they're meant to be. Hey, welcome back. This is episode 229. I'm super excited to be talking about one of my absolute favorite topics, creativity. Fostering creativity in your kids, cultivating it in your homeschool. It's going to be a great discussion, and I can't wait to bring it to you. Before we get started on today's episode, I have a quick word from our sponsor, Night Zookeeper, and I also want to encourage you to check out ctcmath.com. CTC has been a season-long sponsor for the past 2 years. Fabulous math program, fabulous people. We'll talk a little bit more about it later in the episode, but right now I want to let you hear about Night Zookeeper, and then we'll get on with today's episode. Okay, are you looking for something to kind of shake up what you're doing for language arts? Night Zookeeper just might be the answer for you. We have used Night Zookeeper in the past, but we're back in it this year with my youngest, Isaac. He is just about to start jumping in again, and I'm excited to be able to share on social media some of the things that he's doing with it. But Night Zookeeper is a game-changing language arts program that takes the stress out of teaching because it's fun, it's engaging. Your kiddo is going to love it because it's different than other things. It teaches your child spelling, grammar, punctuation, vocabulary, reading, and writing through a pre-planned language arts curriculum that your kiddo can use independently. I love this because a program like Night Zookeeper frees me up to do one-on-one help with another kiddo while one is doing this program independently. And then, so when Isaac's doing this, he can jump in, he can learn, he can write, he can engage with the word games and the interactive video lessons and the cool, fun, inspiring writing prompts. And then if he gets stuck or he wants to share something with me, he can pause and come get me and I can go help him, but I don't have to sit there and do it all from start to finish. And let me tell you, having some of those kinds of programs in your back pocket when you are a crazy busy mom of gifted, twice exceptional, and otherwise neurodivergent kiddos is a game changer because you can take it on the go, you can bring your tablet with you, your kiddos can access it from the computer in the family room or the laptop on the go or their Chromebook or whatever. And okay, so here's something super cool. Your kiddo is going to get written feedback on their writing from real tutors. So if they need support or they need to be working on something or they need to add some more describing words or they're messing up their punctuation, you don't have to be the bad guy. I know I'm the bad guy often in my house when I'm trying to get my kids to understand a certain concept. And here you have real tutors at your disposal helping you by assessing and taking a look at your kiddo's writing and giving them feedback. Thousands and thousands of homeschool parents have found success using Night Zookeeper to transform their children's attitude towards language art and writing in particular, and you're going to love it. It's perfect for ages 6 to 12. If you've got an advanced kiddo, you could start them earlier on it. If you've got a kiddo who needs a little bit more support with their reading, writing, vocabulary, or other language art skills, you can let them jump back into it or stick with it a little bit longer. However you need to use the program, you've got this. Okay, so if you're ready to say goodbye to the stress of teaching language arts, give Night Zookeeper a try. Just head on over to rll.bz/nightzookeeper, rll.bz/nightzookeeper, all lowercase letters, and you can get a 7-day free trial and 50% off an annual subscription. You cannot beat that. If you can't remember that link, rll.bz/nightzookeeper, you can also head over to the show notes for this episode and find the link there. All right, are you ready? Let's get on with today's episode. Okay, so we're going to talk today about creativity, and creativity in children in particular is a huge passion topic of mine. I think it's so important for us to really focus in on understanding and developing the creativity in our children. It's one of my core reasons for homeschooling. Being able to homeschool my children allows me to give them an open-ended opportunity to develop their own creativity. I remember way back when my oldest went to school, he was insatiable in his curiosity, in his learning, in his creativity, in the ideas that he came up with. And I watched through kindergarten and then into first grade that passion for learning and creating and innovating be dampened more and more and more. And I've talked a lot about kind of our origin story and why we started homeschooling in the first place. And if you don't remember that, we'll link in the show notes to a couple posts on the website if you want to read more about how we got started and why. But we'll just suffice it to say, kind of in a nutshell, his passion for learning was getting destroyed. He had a situation that just was not super conducive to his way of learning. And I had all this background on child development and gifted education and nurturing creativity and critical thinking and problem solving in our children. And I was watching my kiddo, who had been this extreme learner, according to his preschool teacher and according to anyone who met him, just fall apart and care less and less and less. And so creativity in kids and developing it has just continued over the years to be a passion of mine. And I want to talk a little bit about it today for a couple reasons. Number one, we are diving deeply into creativity in the Learner's Lab next month. And so I want to kind of give a preview to the topic that we're going to be discussing next month in the Learner's Lab for a couple of reasons. The main reason is for those of you who aren't members, of course, I want you to join. I want you to join our membership. It's a great community. It's growing leaps and bounds month after month after month. We have more members joining us every time we open up. We have more offerings for kids every single month, more offerings for parents every single month. It's becoming this robust community of collaborative learning and socialization and support for one another. But if you're not a member at this time, or you're not able to be a member at this time, I still want you to at least get a little bit about what we're going to be diving deeply in to for the month, because it's so important. So let's talk about creativity. First, what do I even mean by creativity within the context of child development and growing our children into the adults that they're meant to be? Creativity within this context is kind of the ability to generate novel ideas, think outside the box, and express oneself in unique ways. It's not limited. And I think this is the problem that a lot of people, when they talk about creativity, run into, because they automatically think about this. It is not limited to artistic pursuits. It extends into problem solving, critical thinking, imaginative play. It extends into all different areas of our kids and our own lives. If we were to look at my 4 children, we would think that 2 of them are more creative than the others because 2 of them are involved in some kind of arts. One is in the fine arts. She sings, she dances, she acts. She's a tremendous actress and wants to pursue this. She does a great job. And then the other loves to draw. She is a doodler extraordinaire. She creates all sorts of projects and is always thinking about these little creative, artistic endeavors that she can apply herself to. Whereas my youngest is very into video games. He's into like electronics. He just got hooked on snap circuits and things like that. And he's very linear. He follows directions well. He builds Legos, but he prefers to build Legos based on prompts or kits. And my older one, yes, he does photography, but he's really involved in post-production stuff. He enjoys the editing process of video, of photography, of audio editing. He is the editor of this podcast. And so you'd think that if we're talking creativity, the middle 2 are the more creative ones, but the outer 2, the bookends, are creative in their own ways. They are great problem solvers. They're incredible critical thinkers, and they toy with different things in different ways than my girls. Creativity encompasses a broad spectrum, from drawing and painting and constructing elaborate structures to building new games, inventing new games, creating new opportunities, inventing new ways of doing things, organizing your day or your things in a way that's conducive to getting more done. Being able to look at how somebody interacts and interact with them in a way that makes them feel safe and comfortable. Creativity isn't a fixed trait. It's a skill that can be nurtured and developed over time through various experiences and opportunities. Sir Ken Robinson, the kind of father of creativity, he's so famous for his creativity TED Talk, believed that children are born creative and they have this extraordinary capacity for innovation. And more importantly, children, especially young children, have no fear of making mistakes. If you're not prepared to be wrong, you'll never come up with anything original. And then he goes on to say, by the time they're adults, most kids have lost that capacity. They've lost that capacity because schools have started killing creativity. They don't allow our kids to be as creative as they could be because they need to check boxes. They need to have your kids follow kind of a linear path so they know if they're successful or not. This is where the beauty of homeschooling can come into the idea of creativity. We have an opportunity as homeschooling parents to put an emphasis on creative thinking and continue, like Sir Ken Robinson says, nurturing it and helping our kids grow it. We have the opportunity to prevent them from growing out of that trait and instead growing into it. I was just talking to my daughter the other day about the Maya Angelou quote about, you can never use up creativity. The more you use it, the more you have. Because we were talking about writing. And she asked how you get over the idea that you're a bad writer. And I said, you don't always. I'm a writer. I have a new book coming out in July. I'm so excited about it. And actually, we have an entire chapter in the book dedicated to creative thinking and creativity and fostering it in your kids and in your homeschool. The book is called The Homeschool Advantage, a child-focused approach to raising lifelong learners. It will be published by Wiley in July 2024. I am so excited about it. You'll be hearing more and more about it. But I have that book coming out. I've written dozens and dozens and dozens of published works over the years. I have a column in Homeschooling Today magazine. I have previous books. Raising Resilient Sons is my most recent. And I said to her, you never completely get rid of it because it's so personal. But the more you write, the better your writing becomes because you're training your brain to get rid of the easy stuff, right? The low-hanging fruit, and go diving deeply into the more creative stuff that's in there and can come out. You get a more creative way of saying things and showing things and giving examples of things. And so we have this opportunity as homeschoolers to put a focus on problem solving, critical thinking, creative thinking, imagination all through their years. We don't have to encourage our kids to focus and sit and check boxes so they can get along with what the mainstream educational system needs them to be so they can, get to the next level. We get to allow them to be kids for as long as they need to be. We get to allow them to explore the backyard, raise chickens if you live in a place with property. If you live where I lived a couple of years ago and you have like a postage stamp backyard, you can encourage them to make mud kitchen experiments and grow plants in the backyard, or talk to neighbors and get to know the cool things that other people are doing. We have this open-ended field to just, or let's talk in creative terms, we have this beautiful blank canvas that we can put all sorts of medium on for our kids to explore. So I'm going to encourage you as parents who are trying to instill creativity in their kids to explore various forms of creativity. Explore artistic expression. Recognize and encourage your kids' artistic talents if they have it, whether that's in the fine arts, singing, acting, dancing, or visual arts, drawing, painting, sculpting, or any other kind of artistic pursuit, music, speech and debate, language. Encourage their opportunities to do that. Give them chances to take classes or share their work with others. Explore problem-solving skills. Help your kids develop problem-solving opportunities and skills because creativity plays this crucial role in developing our kids' ability to approach challenges with innovative solutions. It fosters a mindset of curiosity, exploration, a growth mindset, so that when they go up against problems in their regular life, they're going to be able to overcome them with more resilience and more confidence. Within the Learners Lab, we do a creative thinking class every month, and we focus on some kind of problem-solving skill, some kind of critical thinking skill or creative thinking skill, so that kids are able to look ahead and tackle different things. So, for example, in the month of January, we were talking about commitment. The theme of commitment was the one that we were focusing on in the lab. And for the kids' creative thinking class, they set big goals. They created a visual representation of those goals along with a breakdown of what kinds of things they can do now to reach those goals. And so we taught them reverse engineering an idea or a goal so that they can solve the problem of getting there. And then we talked about how they could bounce back from adversity. What happens when something that one of the plans they put into place doesn't work? Because that's inevitable. My daughter acts and sings. She does not get every part she goes out for. Sometimes she knows she could get a part and gets sick before an audition, or her voice is gravelly because she's recovering from an illness. She either can give up or she can pivot. This just happened recently. She really wanted one part in a play, and she had been recovering from an upper respiratory infection, and her throat was a little gravelly, and she knew she was not going to be able to go into that audition and present well for the original part she was going for. So she pivoted and leaned really heavily into the comic relief part, the supporting actress role that is very comedic, has very comedic timing and an interesting personality. And she leaned in. She reworked her song cut so that it was more in line with this new character because she knew she could reach those notes, but not necessarily the lead's notes. And she did it. She got the part. She pivoted. If we don't teach our kids to employ creative problem-solving skills, when they come up against challenges, they're just going to crumble. So we want them to come up with innovative solutions, and we want to encourage this and give them lots and lots of opportunities to do so. We also want to give our kids lots of opportunity, especially when they're young, but we don't want to stop as they get older. We want to give them lots and lots of opportunities for imaginative play. So when they're little, they can dive into the world of make-believe. They can create stories and characters and scenarios during playtime. They can imagine they're different people. As they get older, they can come up with new solutions for things. They can write stories. Don't forget about creative writing when your kids get older and the college essays are looming. Give them opportunities to still play with language and develop characters and stories. Encourage them to play what-if games with you. What if they're not able to get the part that they want? What if they don't get any part? What if? When we explore imaginative play and imagination, this form of creativity enhances cognitive skills and social development because it gives them opportunities to play with scenarios that could potentially happen before they actually happen. So they're able to turn a bad situation or a disappointing situation around to something that could be positive. Okay, you have heard me talk for the last year and a half about CTC Math. The reason I keep talking about it is that they really are a fabulous choice for homeschool math. We are customers. I have been using CTC Math for several years. I pay for my own subscription and am an incredibly happy customer and consumer of the program. My youngest two use CTC, and it's perfect for both of their very different math experiences. One of my kids is a math go-getter and is a year ahead in math and prides himself on the fact that he can speed through it and do extra lessons to get ahead. We have all of the grade levels from kindergarten all the way to calculus at our fingertips, so he can progress as quickly as he wants to progress, and he loves it. My other one sometimes takes 2 or 3 tries at a lesson because some concepts click pretty quickly and some concepts don't. And she has the flexibility to approach math in any way she needs to. The best part too is the folks at CTC Math are so helpful. They want you to succeed. There was one time where we just could not understand what they were saying and how it was going and how it needed to be explained. And we watched a couple of videos on YouTube, and just as a last-ditch effort, I emailed the support team there and I said, look, I am having so much trouble explaining this to my kiddo. Can you just break it down for me in another way? And they did. They want you to be successful. In fact, CTC Math is so convinced they can help you and your kiddo be successful that they have a lifetime money-back guarantee. Like, what company does that? They want you to be satisfied. They want your kid to learn. That is incredible, and that is a company I want to support. So check them out at ctcmath.com or go over to the show notes for this episode and click on the link. Let them know I sent you. Ask them questions. They are there to support you. ctcmath.com. CTC is the best, filled with the best people. All right, let's get back to today's episode. Creativity plays such an important and crucial role in cognitive and emotional development. The benefits are just legion, but let's talk about a couple of them. Cognitive benefits specifically. There are numerous research and studies out there that showcase how engaging in creative activities stimulates various areas of the brain. It enhances cognitive functions like memory, attention, and problem-solving skills. Now, we have, a half an hour on the podcast to dive into a topic, so I can't give you all of the research. We'll link to some great articles in the show notes for this episode, so I highly recommend you go over to the episode to look at them. We'll link to where you can pre-order or order, if you're listening to this after July, the book, and read the chapter on creativity and ways that you can incorporate it in your home and why you even should. We'll link to Sir Ken Robinson's TED Talk so you can hear it for yourself. But I encourage you to explore more deeply the cognitive benefits that scientists have shown again and again that creativity plays or contributes to for our kids. I guarantee if you're listening to this podcast and you don't homeschool already, it will make you think that you either should be considering it or you should be supplementing at home in ways that can increase some of these things our schools are lacking in. I remember leaving teaching. So I didn't leave teaching to be a homeschool parent. I actually left teaching to write full-time and be home to get my kids off the bus. So that's part of that story of how we ended up homeschooling that, again, we'll link to some of those articles. And so I thought that I'd be home working and I'd get the kids off the bus. We'd play, have our snack in the afternoon, probably home-baked cookies because I had all the time in the world, right, in between my freelance writing assignments and my books. And again, I watched that love of learning and curiosity and spark be extinguished for my son, and we made the difficult decision because it was difficult at the time. I didn't know any other homeschoolers. This was 16 years ago, and we made the difficult decision to pull him out, and we were able to really hone in on those skills. And I'm telling you, whenever I leaned more heavily into getting book work done and focusing on checking boxes so I could move him along to the next level in any given subject area, that is when we struggled most in our homeschooling, in our relationship, and in my parenting. When we leaned more heavily into connection, relationships, and creativity, and then pulled in the content within the kind of world of creative thinking, we soared. Now, my oldest didn't go to college. He took a couple classes at a community college, decided that wasn't for him. He's working as a freelancer. He picks up lots of different jobs. He's got several podcast clients, including me and this one, and a bunch of other jobs. He's shooting video. He's editing video. He's taught a special effects class for a local film school, and he's doing great things. My second daughter is completely going the college route. And so we're preparing essays and things like that now in her junior year so she can be ready to hit the ground running in fall of her senior year. My next kiddo is hoping to go to a zookeeper program. She really wants to be a zookeeper or an animal trainer. And so she's focusing on those things. We're looking for ways to creatively include some of the things that they love into their day-to-day, because by focusing on and prioritizing creativity and creative thinking, we're enhancing their cognitive functions. We're enhancing our kids' memory, attention, and problem solving. They're focused on things they're interested in. It stimulates the areas of the brain that allow them to be human beings who can think critically, take in information, and form their own conclusions, which is what we want. It also, focusing on creativity, enhances our kids' emotional development. It gives an outlet, especially when you're doing something like theater, when you're doing something like, even coding video games, work, painting, writing. It gives an outlet for creative self-expression. It allows our kids to communicate their thoughts and feelings and has a positive impact on their emotional well-being. It contributes to increased self-esteem, a sense of accomplishment. One of my kids loves journaling. That particular child uses their journal as a vehicle to process difficult feelings and emotions. Let's face it, whether your kids are young teens, preteens, or young adults, and I've got the gamut. I've got a just turned 11-year-old, a 14-year-old, a 16, almost 17-year-old, and a 21-year-old. Every one of them processes emotions in different ways and takes in a lot. It is difficult to live in a world where you're constantly bombarded with stuff and to process your emotions through it. So one of my kids in particular, one uses drawing as an outlet and doodling and like doodle journaling. One talks, just kind of word vomits all over you. I love it because I get to really get deep into that particular kiddo's brain. And then another one has just started journaling, particularly bullet journaling, and has different setups on different pages to track music and reading and thoughts and problems and solutions. So that kid is processing through creative self-expression. Focusing on and fostering creativity is also a great stress reliever. There are therapeutic benefits to creative expression, and it can be a valuable tool for managing stress and processing emotion in our kids. When my one kiddo goes to their bullet journal and creates a page spread about different ways they've spent their time, they're processing emotions, thoughts, they're reflecting on the time that was spent, and creating a visual representation of it. That is a very, very powerful stress reliever. One of my other kids wants to learn to crochet, specifically because they knew somebody who, at one of their activities during downtime, would crochet. And that particular child's crocheting, though primitive to some degree, was really relaxing in an otherwise stressful situation. And so they want to be able to do that too. Let's go back to the cognitive idea for a second. When we're thinking about creativity and how it enhances learning and critical thinking specifically, so we agree that it's got cognitive benefits. We agree that it's got stress relieving benefits and emotional benefits. The specific academic advantages when we foster creativity, because a lot of people I know, because I've talked to parents around the country, actually around the world, virtually, and then when I've traveled outside of the country to speak, are worried that if they spend too much time focused on creative thinking and problem solving and innovation and stuff like that, that their kids aren't going to be able to meet academic milestones. But the truth is actually just the opposite. When we foster creativity, it encourages divergent thinking, which is the ability to generate a variety of ideas in response to a problem. This skill is closely tied to academic success because it promotes innovative approaches to learning and problem solving. Also, thinking creatively encourages a cross-disciplinary connection in our kids. When we think creatively, it fosters connections between different subject areas. For example, a kiddo who's working on a journaling exercise may pull in some creative writing. They may draw inspiration from science or history, a documentary they just watched, something they read, and it creates this more holistic understanding of various academic disciplines because they're pulling them all together in one. For a long while, and actually we're just getting ready to go back to it, especially with my younger two kids, we did a journal exercise every day. I bought my kids a 9x13 like watercolor spiral, so watercolor paper, so it's that thicker, heavier paper, and we arranged it horizontally on our desks. And every single day, I would ask the kids to use watercolor pencils and sketch out, draw something that they learned that day or something that was interesting that day, whatever it was from anything we did, whether it was academic, social, or just for fun, things that we did, like pull one thing that was the most meaningful of the day. Maybe it was a fact that they never knew. Maybe it was something that really struck their fancy and they thought was interesting and wanted to learn more about. Maybe it was something that was super fun and they wanted to remember it always. Whatever it was, draw it out, sketch it out, and then write depending on their ages. So when they were really little, it was a sentence, a couple words, or dictate something to me. As they got older, it was a paragraph or two. But write about it. And then they would take watercolor brushes and brush water over it and blend the colors together from the watercolor pencils. It was an easy way for especially my non-artistic kiddos and my non-art-loving kiddos to get a little bit of art in. And it was this breathing and living representation of what they found most valuable about their homeschooling experience for the day. So whether they pulled that from the actual academics or from the fun and the social, it didn't matter because it was this beautiful, constant, growing representation of their homeschooling and what they found most valuable. But the benefit that went beyond having this portfolio in front of them was that it gave them an opportunity to make connections between all the different things that they were learning and pull it all into one place. And so when they flip through it at a later date, they see that everything ties together in some way. And it doesn't matter actually what they're learning as much as that they are learning. And so that was the lesson in that particular exercise. Creativity also develops, and I said this before, problem-solving skills. It enhances your child's ability to think critically. It enhances their ability to approach challenges with innovative solutions. They can move beyond the arts and be more innovative and creative in their attempt to solve math problems or conduct science experiments or dive into a historical time period and think critically about why something happened and what we can do to prevent it from happening again. And so it just builds on this for them. And then to build more on their emotional well-being, they're able to have a means, like I said, to express themselves in a unique and personal way. It gives them a way to find out who they really are. It gives them a sense of identity and a place in this world, what they're here to do. Because remember, our job isn't raising children in particular. Our job is to raise adults. We want to raise our children to become the exact right person that they're meant to be, the best versions of themselves as adults. So we want to raise them to adulthood, and we want them to be strong in knowing who they are and what they believe and have a strong sense of emotional well-being. It builds their confidence because we give them an opportunity to explore and express themselves and form that strong identity. They feel confident. Whether they're drawing, creating a story, doing a craft, solving a complex math problem, creating a new innovation or invention that will solve a problem, it gives them a sense of accomplishment. It boosts their self-confidence. And so we are able to then nurture them in this self-awareness and self-confidence so that they can develop stronger interpersonal skills. They are able to communicate better and collaborate. They can engage in creative group activities. They can share their work with others. They can talk about what they're doing. They can ask questions. It's one of the reasons I think everybody, especially our neurodivergent kids, should get involved in some kind of theater program at some point so they learn to work towards an end goal and be able to express themselves better and communicate ideas. Creative expression helps to develop strong verbal and nonverbal communication skills. When we're creative in that way, especially when it involves communication, it fosters more teamwork, more collaboration, social skills, cooperation, compromise, decision-making, shared decision-making. I know that's tough for a couple of my kids, being able to give and take when decisions are made if they're not exactly what they want to have done in a given situation. So what do? How do we foster more creativity at home? First, I really recommend you hop over to the show notes for this episode and look at some of those articles. Watch Ken Robinson's TED Talk, read more about creativity, order the Homeschool Advantage so you get it in July. But beyond that, you can create a supportive environment for creative self-expression and exploration at home. You can, just as far as the arts goes, you can have lots and lots of resources that kids can use. Journaling materials, arts and crafts materials, washi tape, paint, watercolor pencils, markers, brush markers, crayons, colored pencils, I think I already said that, paper, lots of different paper, recyclables if your kids are into inventions and things like that. Give lots of opportunity for that and be okay with some of the problems that arise from that, namely the messes, right? When we're encouraging more creative self-expression in our home, we are often encouraging more messes. So I would encourage you to make sure that whatever you have available to your kids, everything has a specific place. We use those art carts that you see all over. I think that they should just be renamed Homeschool Mom carts. We've got them in just about every room. But right now we have one in our dining room that has paints and paintbrushes and paint palettes on the top shelf. And then on the middle shelf, there are alcohol markers and blending tools and things like that. And then on the bottom shelf, there is actually wood carving stuff because one of my kids is trying to learn how to whittle. So we have wood carving tools, safety gloves, wooden blocks, the softer ones that are easy for beginning whittling. And then we have some idea books. I know that when my daughter, who is trying to whittle, pulls the whittling stuff out, there's going to be wood chips everywhere. In fact, I just went into my dining room, which is our school room, this afternoon, and I saw these little wood chips and little mini scraps of paper all over. And so when they get back home, that particular child will be running the vacuum in there and brushing off the table. So make sure your kids know where things go. And then for you, make sure you know that there are going to be messes. And sometimes your kids will be good about picking them up. And sometimes you're going to be picking them up and you're going to get frustrated. So you just need to keep a balance with that. Also, we can foster creativity at home by balancing structured activities and unstructured playtime. We can make sure that we are not scheduling every second of our kids' day. The best creativity comes through boredom. The best problem solving comes when kids come across problems on their own and we let them try to solve them first. So have a balance between unstructured time and structured time. Now, I'm going to be really brutally honest and transparent with you and tell you that this will change. The balance is not going to look like a true balance throughout your life. There are going to be times when balance is more easily achieved, meaning you're going to be able to pick and choose where your kids get involved, what kinds of outside activities they do, and what they're doing at home. And you'll have a better handle on making sure they're getting a little bit of everything. And then there are going to be times where that's just not possible. We have had seasons in our life where therapies have taken over and our days had to be extremely, extremely structured because we had to be in certain places for sometimes upwards of 3 hours. And that didn't include the drive there and the drive back. And so that seriously impacted our ability to keep things so that the kids were getting a mixture of structured and unstructured activities throughout the day. That's going to happen again when your kids are teenagers. I've got a couple kids right now who are very, very socially active. They are also very active outside the home with private lessons and classes and rehearsals and things like that. And those times are very structured, and we need to be at a certain place when we need to be at a certain place. And so we have limited open-ended time because when we're back home, there are some things that need done. I've got a high schooler, a middle schooler, and an elementary schooler still homeschooling at home. And so when they're at home, there are essays that need written. There are projects that need finished. There is part-time work that needs done. My daughter is doing some remote work for me and some others, and that needs to be done and dealt with on a timeline. My oldest needs to get the podcast edited when there's time, and so he needs to use his understanding of balancing structured and unstructured activities from when he was actively homeschooling to what he's doing now as a freelancer. And so there will be times when it leans more heavily to structured or it leans more heavily to unstructured. And you need to know that, but you want to try to give your kids a mixture. I kind of liken it to toddlers and eating. Do you remember, if you are not a toddler mom, like crank your brain backwards and remember the toddler years. If you are still a toddler mom, I'm sure that this is one of those things that you're like, oh yeah, toddlers and eating. I remember, especially with my first, so many times telling the pediatrician, I just can't get him to eat. And he only had this today or that today. And the pediatrician advising me to monitor his eating over the course of a week because toddlers are grazers notoriously. And they're very busy. They're understanding their world and they're processing things in really rapid fire. And so sometimes they just don't feel hungry or recognize their cues or just want to stop to eat. And that's okay. You want to make sure they're getting a balanced meal over the course of a week. So with our kids, we want to make sure that our homeschooling is balanced between structured and unstructured activities over a season so that maybe you've got some busy weeks and then you ease up a little bit. We're experiencing that right now. My daughter is in the throes of her rehearsals for the spring musical that she's a part of at a high school that's 35, 40 minutes from us. So a lot of my day is driving her. And because she's involved in this, it changes up her availability for voice lessons and acting lessons. And we've had to switch up some of the schedule because her rehearsal schedule for the school is only 4 days a week. So she can't miss that many rehearsals because there aren't that many to miss, even though it's a 4-month period between now and when the show happens. And so we've had to temporarily switch voice teachers within the same music school because we just can't figure out a consistent routine. And I need the structure of making sure I can have my daughter where I need her to be at a given time without having to like refigure it out on a week-to-week basis, which is what we were starting to think that we had to do. Cancel a lesson, reschedule a lesson every single week, just go with it. And it was causing me a great deal of stress. And I realized that in order to get her to all the places she needs to go and make sure my other two are getting to the classes that they're a part of this spring, I needed her to temporarily switch to a different time slot that was consistent so I could plan the other kids' activities around it. And that's what we ended up doing. Is it ideal? No. But it is what we need to do because seasons change. And so that's what our balance looks like right now. Our schedule looks very structured with very little wiggle room in it because I need to teach my classes in the Learner's Lab. I need to work on editing my book so you can get it in your hands in July. And I need to get all 3 of my homeschooled kids where they need to be when they need to be there. Another way that you can encourage and foster creativity at home is to ask open-ended questions. Ask questions that make your kids think. What happened today? Why do you think that happened? That's interesting. I noticed that you and your friend were talking about this. What made you talk about that? Do you agree with your friend's assessment of that movie that you watched together or no? Why? What makes you think that way about that? Why do you like that particular actor so much and think that his portrayal of this character in this movie was so award worthy? And why do you think your friend disagrees with you in this situation? Ask them open-ended questions. What did you do today in horse class is close-ended. This is what we did. my kids take I call it horse class. It's actually homeschooling with horses. It's like equine science and stuff like that. It's a great class. Lots and lots of different things. In fact, they do all sorts of things in the barn, and they're doing some blacksmithing this week. It's a great class. I call it horse class because that's what I was going to say, because my one daughter thinks that it sounds funny when I say that. She's like, I've heard of math class and science class and, writing class, but I've never heard of horse class. So she just giggles every time I say it. So I say it all the time. And now I keep saying it like it's its actual name. Anyway, when my kids get home from horse class and I ask them what they did in horse class, they tell me what they did and they're done. So in order to encourage creative thinking, we want to ask them open-ended questions. You said that you did blacksmithing. What did you think about blacksmithing? Not did you like it? That's a yes or no question. What did you think about it? Which then allows the opportunity for you to say why, and then gives you an opportunity to dive deeper and ask more and more and more questions. We want to make sure that our kids have opportunities to talk to us about the things that are going on so that we can help encourage more creative thinking and more curiosity in them. Now, like I said, there are some challenges to cultivating a creative thinking, rich environment at home. There's messiness, there's chaos, and so we need to make sure that, number one, we know there's going to be a little bit of it. I actually read a quote the other day. I don't remember where I read it from, but I want to say this to you. Our homes are meant to be lived in, right? So it is, I think, a very difficult and borderline unattainable goal to have a perfectly clean house all the time when we are homeschooling our children, especially if we're homeschooling our children in a way that encourages creative thinking and curiosity and exploration, because we're here all the time, right? We're not dropping our kids off at school where they're eating a meal and several snacks and doing their schoolwork and projects and then coming home. We're not going off to work. We may be, but for the most part, we're living in our home more than others are. And so we don't have all this downtime to keep it perfectly clean. That's okay. It really is okay. Your house is meant to be lived in, and when you are homeschooling, and then if you're like me and you're homeschooling and working from home, you're living in your house more than you're not. And because you have a busy schedule, right, you're going from thing to thing and you're not always able to keep it spick and span. Be okay with that. Maybe focus on order and structure and not neatness, or focus on cleanliness and not neatness, because your house can be clean but can still have wood chips and paper scraps all over until the next time someone's available to vacuum. And then think about your busyness. Make sure you give yourself opportunities to have some downtime and be creative within that busyness. Manage the expectations that you have about who your kids are and what they're going to do and how they're going to express their creativity and their problem solving and their critical thinking. Embrace their uniqueness and their self-expression. So it's important for you and us, all of us, to remember that our kids they are themselves, right? They are who they're meant to be. And so everybody's creative journey, their creative thinking is going to develop at a different rate, and they're going to focus on different things. And so we want to make sure that we look at the kid we have in front of us. I've talked about this before, right? Being a student of your child and being okay with who they are and loving them for who they are. Celebrate their uniqueness. Celebrate their personal creative thinking journey, their personal creativity, by asking those open-ended questions and sharing their things with others or encouraging them to share. And then really think about how you can prioritize creativity in your kids. If you remember the benefits, cognitive and social and emotional, of enhancing creativity, and you just tweak the things you're doing a little bit to make sure there are more open-ended opportunities for your kids, they're going to be great. And you're going to be really taking advantage of the beauty that homeschool allows us to help our kids be their own thinkers so that perhaps they can affect change as they grow. They can think for themselves. They can take all of this stuff from around the web and the media and the world, and process it in a way that is creative and problem solving and critical thinking wise, and apply it in a way that is innovative and new and helps them continue to be more confident. Okay, this was a lot in kind of a smushed amount of time. I want to make sure that you go over to the show notes for this episode, raisinglifelonglearners.com/podcast, and click around to some of the links. Check out some of the ways that you can enhance your kids' creativity at home, past podcast episodes, other articles about it, Ken Robinson's TED Talk, and some of the other things. Give some love to our sponsors, Night Zookeeper. It's a great, innovative, creative program for kids 6 to 12 who are writing and prefer to do kind of like game things online. CTC Math, hands down, best math program for our kids, and I'm willing to bet yours. And so check those out. Night Zookeeper, rll.bz/Night Zookeeper takes you to the page that gives you a 7-day free trial and a discount. ctcmath.com/RLL takes you to the CTC Math page that gives you half off and I believe a month-long trial or an extra month, or maybe it's an extra 6 months. That's what it might be. It might be an extra 6 months. So check it out. There's great opportunities, great deals for you from 2 very generous sponsors. And over on those show notes, there is a voicemail widget and there is a link to my contact form. Send me any other questions you have about creative thinking, problem solving, critical thinking, innovation in your kids. Let's keep this conversation going. Look for my book coming out July 30th. I am so excited about it. I'm sure you're going to hear a lot more about it coming forward. The Homeschool Advantage, because truly, you have a huge advantage in homeschooling your kids over kids who are being traditionally schooled and are just following along the path and not kind of diving down their own creative path. We have an advantage as homeschool parents to give our kids the advantage of homeschooling, and we want to make sure we do that. The Homeschool Advantage, a child-focused approach to raising lifelong learners, coming from Wiley in July. I am so excited to share that with you. All right, we're going to be back next week. I have a great interview for you. I'm actually really excited about this next interview. This next interview piggybacks beautifully on this topic of creativity. I'm going to be talking to a very young author who has seen some great success, all about how her parents fostered that creativity and critical thinking and confidence in her through her homeschooling, and now how she is a young, I think she just turned 19 or 20, maybe 20-year-old published author with a brand new book that came out in December and another book coming out soon. So super exciting to bring that interview to you. So stay tuned. Same time, same place next week. I can't wait to see you. You're a great parent. You are doing exactly what you need to do for your kid. Never, ever, ever doubt that you know what's right for your child. You're the best parent and the best teacher for the kiddo that you have. So trust yourself and trust them. Enjoy them this week. Have a great one. I will talk to you soon. Bye for now.